Hello and welcome to Caregivers First, a show brought to you by SCAN, the Social Community Activities Network. SCAN is a nonprofit agency dedicated to helping active adults stay informed, empowered, and inspired. I am your host, Lynette Whiteman, and I am the Executive Director of Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey. Caregivers First was developed to give you knowledge and help you navigate this time in your life. Our guests are experts who provide the latest information and tips to make your life easier. I'd like to welcome my guest today, Stephanie Hunsinger. Stephanie is the State Director of the New Jersey AARP. AARP New Jersey educates and advocates on behalf of those 50 and older on issues that are important to them, their families, and to all Garden State residents. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Lynette. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. So tell me about your role as State Director. What do you do as State Director?
Sure.
Yeah.
So AARP New Jersey serves not the 50-plus population as a whole. We have 1.3 million AARP members in New Jersey as well that are volunteers with us and work with us throughout the state. And my role is really to take AARP priority issues and set the strategic vision for AARP New Jersey and how we're going to do our work on behalf of the 50-plus in the state.
Okay, so overall, the mission of AARP is to advocate, educate, just be the voice of people 50 and older?
Yes, absolutely. Those are some of the things that we do. And ultimately, the mission of AARP is to empower those who are 50 and older to live the best life that they can, however they choose, with dignity and respect.
That's wonderful. So the members, so you mentioned how many members?
There are, in New Jersey, there are 1.3 million members, and across the country, we have about 38 million AARP members.
Wow. So is New Jersey one of the higher states as far as membership? Or
Yeah, we are. We're near the top.
Okay.
We like to stay up there near the top. But yeah, we do have a significant number of members in the state. We have a really large population in New Jersey, so that helps us.
Right. So what are some of the issues that AARP has advocated for in the past? What are some of the successes that you've had as far as advocating for this population?
I would say the two that come to mind, specifically in the caregiving world, are the CARE Act and just recently paid earned sick days. Both of these pieces of legislation really support caregivers and provide them with what they need to support their loved ones so that they can stay in community in their homes where they want to be. The CARE Act itself, and it also allows them the opportunity to not sacrifice their work and their pay through paid earned sick days. So those are two of the ones that come top of mind. And we work across the board on issues not just around caregiving, but on access to quality health care. What we call livable communities, which are creating communities that have programs and services and supports in place for people of all ages to be able to live in those communities for as long as they choose, and also around financial security and ensuring that individuals have enough money and savings in retirement to stay where they choose to stay.
Right. So the paid earned sick days, that's relatively new. That was just signed by Governor Murphy, correct?
Yeah. Just last week he signed that law into legislation, and what that law really does is it requires employers in the state of New Jersey to allow their employees to earn up to 40 hours of paid earned sick time each year, so they can use that time to be able to stay home and care for a loved one, take them to a doctor, and not lose their pay. They've earned those hours throughout the year.
And how do you earn the hours? What's the process to earn the hours?
There's just a process, just like any other organization or company that provides paid earned time off, or PTO, or vacation time. Individuals will accrue a number of hours based on the number of hours that they work. But before this legislation, there were over 1 million workers in the state of New Jersey that had no paid time off. And so this will allow those individuals to now accrue that time and not lose pay in order to stay home and care for a loved one.
Nice. And the CARE Act, the Caregiving Act, what is that?
The CARE Act passed a few years back, and what that does is at intake, when an individual is admitted into a hospital, it allows the individual to designate a caregiver. And that caregiver then is kept abreast of the condition of that individual, and also they're allowed to find out when that individual is being being discharged and to be provided with education on how to care for that individual at home. So it allows for, if you have a family member that's assisting you, maybe your neighbor is going to be helping you when you go home after you've been discharged from the hospital, those individuals are provided with the education that they need in order to make sure that you stay at home. The goal is really not just to provide the resources for the loved one in their home, but also to reduce readmission.
Yeah.
And then those individuals, the caregivers also provided a telephone number that they can contact should they have any questions once they get home. Because we all know that at discharge, we're listening to those questions, to the education. But once we get home, there are going to be a lot of other questions that come up. Right. So they're provided with resources so they can reach out.
It's amazing to me that we needed an act for this. It seems like it's such a no-brainer sort of thing as far as like when you're sending an older person home, but I guess not. I guess there had to be.
Well, I think where the designation really had to come into play is that, in requirement with HIPAA law, you may designate an individual that is informed of your medical care, but that individual may not be your caregiver once you get home.
Right.
And so this allows you to have another designation so that you can really say, my daughter, my son, my spouse is the person that you're going to give my medical information, but my girlfriend's going to come over and she's going to care for me during my rehabilitation, and I want her to get this information as well. Right.
So walk me through, how does AARP actually serve as advocate? Do you make appointments to meet with the legislatures? What is the process if there's something like that is really important? How do you actually go about doing that, making that change?
So we have, I have a dedicated staff in my office that work on our advocacy work. They are basically lobbyists, where they are reaching out to legislators and talking to them about legislation. We're also educating our elected officials and their staff on the issues that are important to the 50+ around caregiving and financial security, and being able to live and stay in their communities. So we reach out through meetings in district. We go and attend hearings at the State House, and we're constantly reaching out to our legislators. But we're not able to do all of that on our own. We're just, it's a staff of 3 individuals that focus on our advocacy work. We really rely on our volunteers to assist us with that. And there's a series of different ways that volunteers can assist. So we have established, and this is just not just for state legislative work, but this is also on a federal level. So we have a group of volunteers. Some of them are congressionally district volunteers, where they're in key targeted districts where we're reaching out to legislators on important issues. We have a group of volunteers that do that work. They may be meeting with legislators in district and having conversations with them either about the issues or maybe about specific legislation. We have an action network, which individuals can opt in to join our action network. They can go to the website at aarp.org and sign up for that. They'll get emails that inform them that there's a call to action to reach out to their legislator and ask them to either support or oppose a piece of legislation. And there's a very easy way to do that. There's a link on there. They click on that link and it'll automatically send a letter. It'll provide information about what that legislation is and why we support or don't support it. And they can also opt in to receive phone calls from AARP asking them to reach out to the legislator or the governor and let them know to please support or sign legislation or to veto or not support legislation. Very easy. We make the call, you answer the phone, you push a button, and it transfers you directly to the legislator, your legislator's office, and you can say, please support this piece of legislation, and we give you the information about that as well, so you're not calling blind.
Right. And so talk a little bit about the voting power of people over 50. And I think for a lot of people, they feel like their phone call is not going to make a difference. Or my letter is not going to make a difference. So that's really not true, right? These things actually do make a difference.
Make a difference. Yeah, absolutely. So the 50+ population is the largest voting bloc in the entire country. In our last presidential election, over 95% of voters 50+ voted in that election. And in the midterm prior to that, where we normally see a large dip, over 75% of the 50+ population came out and voted. So your voices are the largest voices being heard at election time. They're also the largest voices being heard to legislators. And we need to keep in mind that the issues are really important, that issues that affect individuals over the age of 50 are important issues, and we need to bring those issues to our legislators and let them know. We are in a time where we're going to have a large demographic shift in our country. The 50-plus population is growing significantly. It won't be many years before we are at a point where individuals over the age of 65 exceed individuals under the age of 5.
Wow.
And we need to start planning and doing things now to support that population so that they have what they need as they age around access to quality health care, Medicare, Social Security. Those things need to be able to, not just for our current generations, but for future generations, need to be in place to provide those securities that they need. So the 50-plus population is really significantly important, and we have had legislators, when we make phone calls out to legislators, we've had legislators call us and say, okay, I hear you. I hear everybody calling me. Let's sit down and have a conversation, but please have them stop calling. I get the message. So they are being heard. There are surveys and research that's been done of members of Congress and state elected officials asking them what has the biggest sway or influence on you as you're making decisions around legislation. And without fail, the majority of them say their constituents, hearing from their constituents and their constituent stories. I always tell people that I can go in as an AARP employee and have a conversation with the legislator about an issue and talk to them about how important it is to the 50-plus, but I'm not their constituent.
Right.
If I bring in a constituent, a volunteer that's over the age of 50, and they can talk about how that legislation specifically affects them, that means more to that legislator than anything I'm saying.
Right. So sometimes you call, because I've called, and it sounds like you get a 19-year-old intern on the phone who has no interest in what you're doing, but that message eventually. Absolutely. So there is a report that gets to that legislator that we got 25 calls today supporting boom, boom, boom.
Yes. So they know exactly how many calls have come in. They know if those calls have been supportive or against any specific piece of legislation. They break it down based on demographics. So sometimes the caller will ask you, where do you live? How old are you? They ask those questions because they want to know who's calling on this issue. Who are you calling on behalf of, so they can know, is it AARP that's making this call or another organization? But you might be talking to, a 19-year-old intern, and it very well may be true. And oftentimes, you find the staff for some of our legislators are younger staff. But they know the issues. And I often say to people, don't be upset if you don't directly meet with a legislator. If you meet with a staff person, they are well versed on the issue that you're talking to them about, and they have the ear of that legislator. So anything you say is going to be conveyed to the legislator. But all of that information is in there. They have reports that they run, and they know.
All right, so it matters.
It does matter. Absolutely, it makes a huge difference.
I think people thought that their vote didn't matter, but then in recent elections you've seen a difference in like 30 votes or 50 votes or something. So it does matter.
Every vote counts. Absolutely.
Right. And so AARP does not actually endorse a candidate. You're not allowed to do that, but you can support certain legislature and points of view and their.
Yes. Right. Yeah, AARP is a nonpartisan organization. We are not political. We don't endorse candidates. We don't have a PAC. We don't give funds to candidates. We are really issue focused. And so our focus is about the issues. What are the issues that are important to the 50-plus population? And we have done surveys and research and polling of our 50-plus population to really allow them to influence the policy of AARP. And so we go out and we talk about the issues with legislators, and we do support specific legislation or oppose legislation that's harmful to the 50-plus population.
Perfect. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to talk with Stephanie about some of the issues that are really important with the midterm elections coming up, and what are some of the questions people should be asking, especially caregivers coming up of their potential legislatures. So thank you for staying with us, and we'll be back after this short break.
You probably already know that rehabilitation is a must for successful recovery from surgery, injury, or serious illness. What you may not know is that you're free to choose where you go for rehab. In Monmouth and Ocean County, the compelling choice is Care One. Where you choose to go for rehab matters, And with Care One, you have 4 convenient locations to choose from in Monmouth and Ocean counties. Care One at Jackson, Care One at Wall, Care One at Homedale, and Care One at King James in the Atlantic Highlands. At Care One, you'll work with a team of experts to develop a plan based on your needs and goals. You'll have the full support of caring, compassionate physicians, RNs, licensed therapists, and nutritionists dedicated to helping you recover successfully, without setbacks, at a pace that makes you comfortable and successful in meeting your rehabilitation goals. Once you take the first step with us, you'll never look back. Call 877-99-CARE-1 today and come for a tour.
Welcome back to SCAN and Caregivers First. I am your host, Lynette Whiteman, Executive Director of Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey, and I'm having a really interesting conversation with Stephanie Hunsinger, who is the New Jersey AARP State Director. So thanks, welcome back.
Thank you.
So I want to talk some specifics. What are the major issues that you see facing New Jersey's seniors or 50 and above that they should be keeping an eye on when we're talking about our midterm elections coming up?
Absolutely. So again, as we had said earlier, the 50 plus population is the largest voting bloc,
right?
And their voices matter and count, and the issues matter. And so issues around Medicare and Social Security and financial security, support for caregivers are all really important issues that we really need to be asking our legislators about.
Right.
So specific to Medicare, Medicare is a deal that cannot be broken. It is a promise that has been made, and we need to ensure that that stays in place intact the way it is to provide access to quality health care for seniors as they age. For Social Security, we want to ensure that people have worked hard and they have paid into Social Security with every paycheck. So we want to ensure that that stays in place for current and future generations. They've earned it, and they deserve to continue to have Social Security and to be able to count on that in their retirement.
Right.
Around caregiving, we have over 40 million family caregivers across the country. In New Jersey, we have about 1.2 million family caregivers. They truly are the backbone of our healthcare system, and we need to ensure that there are supports and services in place for caregivers to allow them to support their loved ones and for people to be able to stay in their communities and age where they choose.
So so let's say somebody is interested in the caregiving or any of these issues, and they go to a town hall meeting, and there's an opportunity to ask a question to see where the candidate stands on this.
Absolutely.
What would be, because they're all going to say, I love caregivers, they're the best, they're so important, older people are wonderful, but then they try to cut programs.
Sure.
So what is like a question that somebody should be asking of these people to see really where they stand on these issues?
Yeah, I think it's really important when we ask questions of our legislators that our ask is really a yes or no, right?
Okay.
Are you going to support ensuring that Social Security remains intact for current and future generations, and how are you going to do that?
Okay.
Will you support Medicare? No cuts to Medicare. There's been a lot of talk about voucher programs. We don't support voucher programs. The 50 plus doesn't support that. There's been talk about changing age restrictions, where we call it an age tax, where individuals would pay more as they age than younger individuals.
For health insurance?
Yeah, for health insurance. We don't support that either. So, but the questions should really be yes or no questions. What are you going to do? AARP is working on both a state and federal level on a caregiver tax credit. A great question to ask a legislator is, do you support a tax credit for family caregivers?
Okay.
But really asking very specific yes or no questions, and then asking them the how. How are you going to do that? In what way will you ensure that Medicare stays, that we don't break our promise on Medicare? In what way will you ensure that Social Security stays strong for current and future generations?
So that's interesting. So 2 things come to mind. Number 1, talk to me about the Medicare voucher, because I don't know about that. And number 2, it's almost like if you ask the how question, you're going to be able to determine really how much thought they gave to it. Because if they just sort of give like blah, 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 then they really haven't given it much thought, and they're just sort of answering the way they think you do. So it's almost a way to see like how much thought they've actually given to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So first, let me just say that all this information around these issues are all on AARP's website at aarp.org. So if individuals want to find out more about what these issues are and get more of a history and a background on those, they can go to aarp.org and find more information about Medicare, Social Security, caregiving initiatives that are happening and what they each mean, which would help to inform them as well, so they have all the information they need if they go to a town hall, that they're asking questions and they feel that they are armed with the information they need. The voucher program really was part of the repeal and replace piece of the Affordable Care Act. And part of that was that they would create a voucher program where people would receive a voucher, which is basically like an amount of money. You would get an amount of money that you would be able to spend on your health care, and you would go out and get a separate health, buy your own, purchase your own health care with that voucher.
If you're on Medicare.
Yeah, for Medicare and for so they would go out and do that. And so we don't support that. We don't believe that people are going to go out and be able to, or even have the time to go out and do that, to go out and get a voucher, and will the voucher cover everything that they need it to be covered? And so Medicare is a program that has worked. It needs to stay in place and continue to work in the fashion that it is, and we need to make sure that we're not making cuts to that program, and that we are ensuring that individuals have access to that care as they get older.
And the age tax, that was
the age tax is also part of the repeal and replace of the Affordable Care Act. And really, what that is it's a system where there's a ratio of individuals who are younger would receive their benefits at a lower cost. Than individuals. As you get older, it would be higher. So obviously, we don't support that. Individuals discriminatory. Individuals that are older shouldn't have to pay more, especially individuals who are dealing with more health issues at that time. It's more difficult for them, and we call it an age tax.
Okay. So that's great. So AARP.org has all the issues.
AARP.org has all the issues. Yeah, you can go to AARP.org and look up our advocacy work on there, and you'll find more information about those issues.
Okay. AARP also has other volunteer opportunities. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure.
How could people get involved?
Absolutely. So aside from the work that we do in advocacy, where you can join a volunteer team or become part of our action network, you can write letters to the editor. Aside from that work in advocacy, AARP also does outreach work. And so we are out in community providing resources and tools to individuals, whether you're a caregiver, or resources and tools about financial security and financial planning, assisting communities on livable communities work, and really making sustainable changes within their communities for all ages. And we're always looking for volunteers. We're a small staff of 11 folks, and there's, like I said, 1.3 million members, but what we do for all at AARP. So we really represent the entire 50-plus population of our state. The 11 of us can only do so much, so we really rely on our volunteers to go out and support us. So whether that's showing up at an event and doing tabling opportunities where you're giving out information and answering questions about AARP, if that's being a part of a leadership team and helping us with our strategy around the work that we're doing in our state. We have a speakers bureau, which is completely volunteer run. It's a group of individuals that go out into community and give speeches on several different topics, including caregiving issues. We have a Prepare to Care speech where individuals go out and talk to people who are just starting out in the role of caregiving and giving them resources and information on that. We have speeches around financial planning for 50 plus, resources and speeches around fraud and identity theft, how to identify scams and protect your identity. So we also have a Fraud Watch program. Fraud Watch Network is a network that individuals can join, and they'll get informed about latest scams and identity theft scams. There's a scam tracker on the website where you can go and see kind of where these scams are showing up, so you can look in your area and know certain calls you're getting. Is this happening? How to report them. There's a place where you can go in and report scams so that we can let people know that this is happening. And then in our office we have what we call the fraud fighters, and we do a reverse sort of boiler room. Those individuals come into our office and they make calls out to individuals and let them know about scams that are happening in their area and keeping them informed. So we're always looking for more individuals to come in and do that. But volunteers are just an integral part. They're part of everything we do in our office. Even if it's coming to the office and assisting us in the office with getting ready for events.
Right.
We have an event actually today going on in North Bergen where we have over 120 caregivers coming to learn and get resources and tools. It is being staffed with a few staff people, but mostly volunteers that are there. They came to the office and put bags together to give out at the event, and it's a bilingual event as well. So we do a lot of work in multicultural work as well, and have a group of volunteers that go out and reach out to communities.
That's wonderful. I actually never knew that you guys did all this, and I've been in this world for a long time, so it's wonderful. So if somebody wanted to get on your alerts or make phone calls, do they have to be a member of AARP in order to sign up for that sort of thing?
No, they don't. You know, AARP's motto is, like I said, what we do for all. So you don't have to be a member of AARP to participate as a volunteer, to come to any of our events. They're open to everyone. You know, we say we're for the 50 plus, but you don't even have to be 50 to come to our events. So you can go to the website and sign up to be part of our action alert. You can opt in to get information about our events and come to our outreach events. We do a lot of community education events, but we also do a lot of what we call fun with purpose events. So we have Movies for Grown-Up program where we do a movie in a movie theater, and that's open to all to be able to come. And so you can sign up to get information in a newsletter about our outreach work and the things that we're doing in community as well.
Nice. I know you're active, or I've seen you AARP on Twitter. Do you have Facebook page? That's your favorite.
You know, we've got it all. Facebook is great.
Yeah,
and Facebook is a great place to go and find out more about AARP and the work that we're doing. You can see things that we're doing on community. We also put calls to action on our Facebook page, so you can click on those calls to action and it'll direct you to what you need to do.
Perfect.
And that's our Facebook page is AARP New Jersey.
Perfect.
So you can get information there as well.
Okay. All right. I'm going to share. Caregivers has a Facebook page, so I'll link to you guys, and I'll share a lot of that information. So we have a little over a minute left. Anything that I didn't ask you about AARP that you want to make sure people know, or any probably like give out again all your contact information so people could hear it again.
I think just staying abreast, understanding that there's more to AARP than what most people think. I think a lot of people think about AARP as being for old people. We have a lot of fun and we do a lot of really great things, and we really are looking at what's best for individuals that are 50 and over. So I think changing sort of the view and giving us a shot would be great. Check out our Facebook page definitely for information and resources and ways that you can connect with us. And you can always email us at aarpnewjersey@aarp.org.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. This was really very enlightening to me, and I know to the people who are viewing today. And it's nice to know that somebody has your back. And that's really what you're doing. And again, with such a big voting block, and knowing that legislatures listen, that's great. That's wonderful. So when you call, they pick up the phone.
When you call, someone picks up the phone.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for joining us today for Caregivers First. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned some new information and some new perspective about AARP New Jersey, and that you definitely will go to their website and sign up to be a volunteer or to become an advocate, especially with the midterms coming up. It's so important. So now it's your turn. I'd love to hear from you and what's on your mind. You could call SCAN at 732-542-1326 or email us at office@scannewjersey.com and let us know what you would like to see on the show and some ideas and feedback. So thank you again for joining us, and have a great day.